Hi guys, welcome to a new tutorial on how to use W3 School Spaces. We're going to be going over what a W3 School Space is, how does it work, and a little bit about the free basic plan that we're using for this class. We're also going to go over the parts of a URL and how directory paths work, and then 2 ways you can use your space to submit your projects in this class. So let's get started. Here I'm on the W3 Schools website. I'm going to go ahead and log into my account. I'm actually already logged in here. I'm going to go to Spaces, and then it shows my space. So this is my old space that I have for my survey form, which is the Project 1 in this class. But if you go to create and you try to create another space for future projects, you can see that I've used up all my basic space slots because W3 Schools only allows you to have one space. Otherwise, you have to pay for additional ones. So what even is a W3 School Space? So for the free W3 School Spaces plan, you only get one free domain or one free space, but you can have plenty of subfolders and files inside your space. So here's how the free plan works. Each space is like a separate website or project. You get one free space. If you want more, you have to either delete the one that you have, or you can upgrade to a paid plan, which is we're not going to upgrade or pay for anything. We're going to go over more about that later. But what's inside a space is it's pretty much a space is a folder, and inside of it you can have more folders and files. Just be aware that W3 School Spaces automatically makes your index.html file the home page of your space. That's important to note, and I'm also going to go over that later. But in this example, you can see that I'm inside my space, which I have named JDOFAT websites, and there are 5 folders inside. Just for the sake of this example, I did 5 folders all named after each one of the projects. And I have Project 2 opened up in a file called it's in a folder called Project2 Tribute Page. And inside that folder, I have my index.html file and my styles.css file. You can see that when I run my index.html file, it shows my tribute page. This is why it's important that you guys know the parts of a URL and how directories work. So in this example, my space is called JDOFAT websites. And then as you can see, I had those folders inside, Project 1, Project 2, Project 3, blah, 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 blah. And then inside all of those folders, I had an index.html and a CSS file in all of those. But depending on what I want to submit, let's say I want to submit my Project 2, your URL will have to specifically reflect your HTML file inside your Project 2 folder. So you can see the JDOFAT websites is my space. I have Project 1, Project 2, blah, 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 blah. But if I want to submit my HTML file from Project 2, my URL is going to be jdofatwebsites.w3schoolspaces.com/project2/index.html. This shows that the HTML inside Project 2 is the one I'm going to be submitting. So I'm going to show you guys what you could possibly do to submit your projects. If you don't want to keep your old projects and you don't want the confusion of adding folders and files inside the folders, you can just delete your space and then create a new one for your new project after it's graded. But I'm going to show you another way you could do it with the examples before, where you can just create more folders and then put your projects inside the folders. So I'm going to create a new space. I'm going to name it JDOFAT websites. What I'm going to do is create 5 folders, one for each project. So if you go to new root folder here, I'm going to just name it Project1 survey form. And then if you go to move to folder, you can literally just put it inside that folder, and all of your files from your past projects can just go in your Project1 folder. And so this way you can keep your files and look at them later and review them if you need to go back and review your old files. And so now I have my Project1 folder and everything should be in there. So if you open it, you can see that all of my old files are in there. There we go. And I'm going to just speed this up, but I'm just literally creating one folder for each of my projects. So Project1 is the survey form, Project2 is the tribute page, and then 3 and 4 and 5. And there we go. Okay, so now that I have all of my folders and I'm done with my Project1, I'm going to create my Project2. So I'm going to create a new file, make sure it's called index.html. Please make sure it's called index.html. And we're going to create that inside my Project2 folder called Project2 tribute page. Okay, now I'm going to just copy and paste whatever I have in my index.html file. Also make sure you double check that it's called index.html. I'm going to change this later. W3 Schools changed it to index/1, but I'm going to change that later. And then I'm going to add my styles.css. So I'm going to just copy and paste whatever I had in my styles.css and move it into my Project2 tribute page folder. So after this, you should have an index and a styles file inside your folder. Double check that the names are correct, so it should be index.html and styles.css. And they should both be inside the folder. And here I'm just renaming it to make sure it has the correct file name. I also had to rename my styles.css because I forgot the S at the end of styles. Okay, and now if you run the index.html file, your tribute page should show. So I'm going to go ahead and run my index.html, and there's my tribute page. Okay, now this is where I really want you guys to pay attention with submitting your URL. So remember, if you're done with your project and it's already graded, you could just delete that space and create a new one for a new project. But if you want to keep your projects and review them later, you can do it the way I did it and create new folders and just put your old project files into your folders. But if you do it that way, you have to submit your URL in a specific way so that your professor or whoever is grading your projects can view the right files. So for example, my space is called JDOFAT Websites. And then the project I want to submit is Project2, which is in a folder called Project2 Tribute Page. So you don't want to submit the link to your general space. So if you click share space and you get that URL, like you copy the URL like how we did in the previous video tutorial I had, where you just click this button and it gives you the link. If you just submit that and you have folders inside your space, W3 Schools won't know what to present when someone clicks that link. So someone's going to get this error when they open that link if you have folders inside your space. So what you have to do is submit the specific URL that navigates to the folder that you're trying to submit with the project that you're trying to submit. So you can see that when I open my index.html file inside my Project2 folder and run it, the URL right here shows the directory to that project. So what I'm going to do is get the URL that when I click share, it gives me this URL to my general space. And you have to specify the root of the project index.html file that you want to submit. So I'm going to click slash whatever my folder is called, so Project2 tribute page. And if you write it out specifically like this to include the folder and the file that you specifically want to submit for your project, your project should show up when you enter the URL. So just make sure it has all the parts that we talked about here. Otherwise, whoever's trying to view it won't be able to see what you're submitting. So again, if you just submit your space URL and you have folders in there, it's going to show up as an error. No one will be able to see what you're actually trying to submit. So just please make sure you are specifying exactly what you want people to see. So if you have a folder in there called Project2, if you have a folder in there called Project ABCDEFG, you have to, in the URL, have slash whatever your project name is, and then slash index.html, because that's what we're going to have to see when we open your link. Now, just to be clear, if your project looks like this and you only have one index.html and one styles.css file, you don't need to specify exactly the path. You just have to make sure your link looks like this. But if it looks like this inside your space, please specify what folder you're trying to submit when you submit your URL. So these are a couple examples. I'm going to go over each of these. So let's just say my space looks like this with all these folders and then files inside each of these folders. If you submit the general URL to your space, you're going to get the error. So instead, let's just say I want to submit Project2. For this example, let's pretend my space name is called myspacename. And then inside my space name, I have myProjectOne and myProjectTwo. If I want to submit my Project2 in Blackboard and I have an index.html and a styles.css file inside that folder called myProjectTwo, I'm going to submit the URL here because it specifies myProjectTwo / index.html. Now for this other example, if I want to submit my Project1, same thing, the same space name, but I want to just submit a different project inside. So one of the folders that I have is called myProjectOne. If I want to submit that, I'm going to submit this URL, my space name .w3spaces.com / myProjectOne / index.html. And if you submit this, we should see whatever you have inside that folder. So overall, you guys don't need more than one space to submit your projects. Again, you can either delete your space and create a new one for another project, and after it's created, just delete it and then create a new one for the next project. But if you guys want to keep all of your projects to review it, or if you want to keep working on them further after you submit it, just to practice or whatever you want to do, you can just put it inside a folder and then keep all of your projects inside folders. But if you do it that way, please just make sure you submit the correct URL that navigates to that specific project. And just to review what we talked about, first, you only get one free space. So like I said, you can either delete your old space and create a new one for each project that you do. Just make sure your project is graded before you start on your new one. Or you can create folders inside your space and put all of your projects inside its own folder. If you do this, just make sure the URL you submit navigates to that specific folder of the project you want to submit. So your URL needs to reflect exactly what you're trying to submit in Blackboard. And then always name your HTML file index.html. This is important for the specific platform that we're using because it looks specifically for a file called index.html as the home page. So please make sure you're naming it that. And if you guys have any further questions, feel free to message me or email me. And good luck with everything.